Aloha and welcome. My name is Mardi LaPrade and I'm a volunteer with the Livable Hawaii Kai Hui on the Natural Resource Team. We're working on a wetland restoration project at Keawava Wetland, which is adjacent to Hawaiian Complex. Our special guest today is Dr. Ohu Gon III, the Senior Scientist and Cultural Advisor for the Nature Conservancy of Hawaii. A few months ago, he visited our project in Hawaii Kai and offered a Hawaiian blessing. Recently, while attending a conference on Hawaiian water birds in Kaneohe with members of the Livable Hawaii Kai Hui, we heard Dr. Gon present his talk on Hawaiian wetlands. We've invited him here today to share his expertise on the subject and hopefully deepen your knowledge. Will you please share something with us about Hawaiian wetlands, Dr. Gon?
Oh, my pleasure. I think I'll reprise the presentation that I did.
Thank you.
So, whenever we gaze upon vast expanses of Hawaiian wetlands, we're looking at an ecosystem type that was fundamentally essential to Hawaiian ancient life. An abundance of wai, of fresh water, assured people of sustenance through all seasons, so that the word wai redoubled as wai is the word for riches. The root of wai is also related to another yet less well-known meaning of wai, which is to retain. And so when water is retained upon the landscape, the conditions for life and abundance are met. And of all the aspects of the Hawaiian natural world, the movement of water above, on, and under us has always been the driving factor governing life in these islands. And I want to share some of the fundamental aspects of traditional Hawaiian perspectives on that vital envelope, and how traditional oral information sources in chant and story point to an intimate and personal relationship between people, water, and wetlands, personified in the spiritual structure of the Hawaiian universe. The role of fresh water in ancient Hawaiian life was so fundamental that when the two major sources of fresh water, water from the ground in springs, wetlands, and streams, and water from the sky in cloud and rain, were attributed to two of the four major Hawaiian gods, and in turn closely matched to the major food crops that each of them represented. Kane and his brother Maunalua are the traditional creators of freshwater springs in Hawaii. At the urging of Maunalua, who needed the water to assuage his thirst for awa, a thrust of the staff of Kane into the ground would immediately be followed by a gush of pure water in the form of a punawai, a freshwater spring. Such springs attributed to Kane and Maunalua are found throughout the islands, the spring at Punahou, for example, being one of the most famous. It's no accident that two of the major crops associated with springs, streams, and wetlands, kalo and awa, are both sacred manifestations of Kane. And no accident that one of the native sedges of our wetlands, the ahu awa, is used in the making of awa, the long fibers of the ahu awa being used as a strainer, separating the root fibers of the awa from the liquid drink. And it's interesting that the ahu awa shows up in ōleloNet, the wise sayings, with an unspoken kauna or hidden meaning related to disappointment. Hoka is a word that means to strain debris from a liquid, as one might do when preparing awa. But hoka also means frustration or disappointment, so the ahu awa is associated with hoka, disappointment. And thus this saying, ayapaha ika imi ahu awa, would be voiced to indirectly tell someone that what they're trying to achieve is not likely to succeed. The strong association of the god Kane to kalo was also the basis for strict gender association. Only men could work the kalo fields. Similarly, awa was considered a drink primarily for men, both as a therapeutic treatment for sore muscles and for ritual use dedicated to the family aumakua, the guardian ancestors. The chant for the pre-dawn context of the male head of household reflects this ritual use of awa. This is how that chant goes. Ya la wa ma la ma la ma wa hele ka naka ya ilu wa ka yau ka ho ka ula ka ho ka le nau I hoe ka pu ava uli pu ava ke a pu aka ne mo ahi ne ma hikina ka lele italani o wa ka li o e he aka. O ke aka no ia mai ka hiki ku, aka hiki mo, mai ka hiki kapa kapa ua e ka ne. E ia makapule ka waioha. Ka nai nai a o e ke akua. I o lano e. So that the god of fresh water is also the god of the sun is quite revealing, actually. Hawaiian perspectives are all about relationships. And the relationship between the sun and the cycle of water is what's important in the Hawaiian perspective on fresh water. And what combination of water and sunlight is more striking than a rainbow? The classic chant about the waters of Kane asks us, "E ui akua na au ia oi, aihia ka wai ia Kane. Ai ke kai, I ka moana, I ke kualau, I ke a nue nue, I ka punohu, I ka ua koko, I ta a leva leva. Ai I laila ka wai ia Kane." The wisdom of this chant is that it acknowledges that the sun, from its rising to its setting, is the engine which drives the cycle of cloud formation that brings water to the earth. And in contrast, Lono was seen as the god of the winter rains, which allowed for cultivation in the drier arable lands. Lono presided over the seasonal cultivation of uala, sweet potato, and ipu, gourd. The season of Lono is the ho'oilo, the winter, Hawaiian winter or wet season. It's marked by the makahiki, the start of the traditional Hawaiian year. Only during this time of year was cultivation of the rain-dependent crops of the leeward drylands possible, and sometimes the window for cultivation was very narrow. Many of the heiau servicing agriculture in such zones were dedicated to Lono, and were heiau ho'oluua, heiau dedicated to bringing rain. Some of the chants to Lono indirectly request rain through the calling of clouds, and with such chants, the kahuna could evoke rain as needed, say during the Farron times. O tino e lono I kalani, he au loa, he au poko, he au ti e, he au halo, he au ho'opua I kalani, starts one of these chants. So important are these cloud signs in the heavens that when you consult traditional Hawaiian sources, there are hundreds of names of cloud forms, clouds that prognosticate the coming weather, which were studied intently and named. Here are a few: the au pua'a, the au loa, the au manu, the au ilio ula, the au oni'o, the au pu'ulima. All of these, at their simplest level, are just visual features in the heavens formed of condensed water. But when combined with traditional knowledge systems, these are important ho'ailona, indications of times to plant, times to avoid oceanic voyaging, times to prepare offerings to the fishing gods, times to set medicinal herbs to dry, times to store water. Sometimes attention to these ho'ailona made the difference between life and death. Thus, in the form and movement of water, of earth and sky, were acknowledged as the source of life in ancient Hawaii as it is today. As the gift of the gods, water was not considered a commodity to be bought or owned, but a profoundly sacred part of the natural and supernatural landscape in which people and all other living things resided. Whether a mahi'ai, a farmer, was from the lush, wet valleys in which kalo was grown, or from the drier leeward areas where uala was the main staple, both looked to the many forms and signs of Kane and Lono as the principal duo attached to water. Even today, the sanctity of water and its role in both purification and healing represent a continuity of the same reverence that ancient Hawaiians placed in water, a deeply spiritual substance that continues to evoke life, cleansing, and healing. You may have heard, for example, that one particularly valued source of water for blessings comes from the rainwater collected in an upturned kalo leaf. That water from Lono would be held in the body of Kane makes it doubly blessed. If the sources of water in springs or rainfall were considered sacred to major Hawaiian gods, streams, pools, and wetlands were also held sacred as the homes of mo'o, special water-related gods, guardians of wetlands and freshwater pools. The Hawaiian historian Samuel M. Kamakau described the mo'o in great detail. Here's a bit of a direct translation from his description. The mo'o are not the house or rock lizards or any of those little creatures with which we are familiar. No, indeed. One can imagine their shapes from these little creatures, but the mo'o had extremely long and terrifying bodies, and they were often seen in the ancient days at such places as Maunalua, Koainui, and Ihukoko at Uko'a. There was no doubting them when they were seen. They lay in the water from 2 to 5 anana in length, and anana is the from fingertip to fingertip stretched out. And when given a drink of water, of ava, they would turn from side to side like the hull of a canoe in the water. So leave it to Kamakau to describe a Hawaiian water creature from 12 to 30 feet in length, and then describe its behavior when given ava to drink. These mo'o were cared for, and their heiau were dedicated to them. They were considered the true kama'aina guardians of the resources of the wetlands in which they lived. The names of these mo'o were known all around the islands, and they were typically female. The names Hauwahine, Laniwahine, and Kihawahine reflect this. One of the ramifications of the mo'o tradition is that certain stream creatures are considered kino lau of mo'o, that is, the body forms, and even carry this designation in their names. Our rarest endemic goby, Lentipi's concolor, o opu hi ukole, also goes by the name o opu ala mo'o. The modern tradition of laying a tea leaf on the mountain pool before swimming stems from the offering to the mo'o of the pool, an acknowledgement of the sacred nature of personified wetlands, as well as a humble acknowledgement of the dynamic mana inherent in mountains, streams, and pools. It's interesting that in Hawaiian tradition, one of the signs of the mo'o of the wetland, and one of the signs that the mo'o is present and active, is when wetland plants such as the neke fern go yellow. Whether this is due to seasonal senescence or changes in the nutrient patterns of the wetland, it's an indication of how closely Hawaiians paid attention to their wetlands as a sign of their state. Estuaries provide the connection between mo'o and mano, the sharks, with the mo'o the fierce guardians of freshwater wetlands and the mano being the guardians of the sea. Where the two meet, where the streams meet the ocean, is where their relationship becomes clear. Many mo'o are the offspring of shark gods and mo'o, and stories speak of the amorous relations of the two deities of waters. The mo'o Oua, the guardian of Kuapa in Maunalua, had a shark for a father and a mo'o for a mother. He had a relationship with the shark goddess Mamala of Honolulu Harbor. Out on the Waianae side, Nanaue, the shark god, mates with the mo'o Ko'iahi of Makua Valley. And in this manner, the spawning season of the ocean of Waianae is determined when the winter rains bring the freshwater of Makua Valley into the sea. Now I'd like to talk a bit about the Hawaiian modification of natural wetlands. I need to start with the context in which that occurred. In the ancient Hawaiian universe, the world was divided into a dichotomy. The realm of people, the Waukanaka, occupied the lowlands, where that which grows is the result of human effort. And above this comfortable lowland zone was the Wauakua, the realm of the gods, where human effort had nothing to do with the verdant growth of native forests, and where conditions were often wild and elemental. The Wauakua is where people were every day, and where their activities modified the landscape. The area of modification and displacement can be referred to as the Hawaiian ecological footprint. That footprint was quite apparent in the lowlands, and particularly well pronounced in wetlands. In contrast, the upland watershed as part of the Wauakua, all things living in the native forest were connected to the akua. Trees, for example, are the kinolau of Ku, another of the major Hawaiian gods, god of war, of leadership, and of governance. The strength of trees, their erect nature, their steady persistence through the seasons, all match the characteristics of their governing akua. The common person didn't visit the Wauakua without good reason, and in ancient times the purpose of the entry was to take a large ohia tree for the purpose of creating one of the great temple images of Ku. The sacrifice demanded was one of the people entering the Wauakua. This was the extremely high kapu with which the Wauakua was treated. Only small parties led by specialists with knowledge of the forest and its resources could enter the Wauakua, and only with purposeful, positive intent, and after rigorous ceremonial protocols. So where was the Hawaiian footprint, and how did it affect the wetlands? The hydrological context of the footprint is demonstrated well on the island of Oahu, which offers moisture conditions from very dry in the leeward south and west regions to very wet, as in the summit crest of the Ko'olau mountain range. Moderately dry and mesic areas are shown here by their respective colors. Elevation of the island exceeded 4,000 feet only in a small part of the Waianae range, but approached 3,000 feet along the remainder of both the Ko'olau and Waianae summit crests. And because of the tall summits, high rainfall areas, particularly in the eastern Ko'olau mountain range, fed numerous continual perennial streams, bringing both water and nutrients to the lowlands. Large coastal and lowland wetlands, shown in light blue, brought life-giving water to otherwise dry areas and created very rich estuarine breeding grounds for near-shore fish. A large part of the footprint was comprised of the area of cultivation for the two major staple crops in Hawaii, kalo, taro, and ʻuala, sweet potato. We mapped the combinations of topography, soil conditions, and climate that provided for the highest potential for the two crops. For kalo, the optimal condition is plentiful water, low elevation warm settings, and gentle slope. And for ʻuala, the critical condition is winter rainfall, sufficient to support the growth of the vines, but not so heavy as to leach nutrients from the soil. When we apply the agricultural models to Oahu, we can see that the largest part of this footprint, shown here in kalo purple and ʻuala red, occupied the areas near the coast, extending into valleys where sufficient freshwater flow created ideal conditions for the flood terrace cultivation of kalo. Complementing this were the somewhat drier areas shown in red, receiving sufficient rainfall to support ʻuala and other drier agriculture. The major agricultural areas and the local i'a, the fish ponds, form the heart of the final ecological footprint for the Hawaiian population of pre-contact Oahu. The analysis of this footprint indicate that large impacts were in the wetlands that converted into lo'i kalo agriculture and lokoi'a, with over half of the wetlands converted. So wetlands were hugely important in ancient Hawaii and heavily utilized. But what's interesting from a habitat and ecosystem function standpoint is that even if the human footprint displaced over half of the ancient wetlands, it did so in a manner that conserved much of the ecosystem function, maintaining natural processes as a semi-wild system. It turns out that the conversion of wetlands and flat valley bottoms into lo'i resulted in a net increase in wetland habitat during pre-contact Hawaiian history. Native wetland species were the direct beneficiaries of this expansion of habitat. Perhaps one of the most interesting examples of this benefit of widespread wet kalo agriculture for wetland species is seen in the endangered water fern called Ihi-Ihi-Lauakea, Marsilia villosa. Found in only a few ephemeral pool habitats on Oahu and Molokai today, it was described as a common taro patch plant in the 1800s and early 1900s. The decline of traditional kalo agriculture led to the destruction of habitat for Ihi-Ihi-Lauakea, which now requires legal protection. Being a well-known plant in ancient Hawaii, there are legends about the plant, considered the kino lau of a beneficent goddess of the same name, who also lends her name to a small crater near Hanauma Bay. No accident that this is one of the few wild sites where Ihi-Ihi-Lauakea can still be found today. Of course, the Hawaiian water birds were also beneficiaries of cultivated Hawaiian wetlands, and each was well known to Hawaiians, their significance well documented in chant and story, koloa, alaiula, alaikea, aio, and auku'u. Koloa, or Hawaiian duck, is closely related to the migratory mallard with which it hybridizes readily. Nearly all birds were eaten as food in ancient Hawaii, and koloa was no exception. Special cooking stones were heated in fire and placed in the body cavity to ensure that the inside was adequately cooked when the bird was placed in the imu. Koloa were prominent in the story of one of the chiefs of Hawaii, Imaikalani, an ali'i of Ka'u district in the time of Umialiloa, was a powerful and fearsome warrior. This beloved son of Ka'u is still revered today by his Ka'u descendants. He was very powerful in battle prowess and greatly feared by his enemies. Stories related that he could throw 10 ihe, the Hawaiian short spear, 5 in each hand, like lightning raining down in a thunderstorm of death, say the stories. He could also split a man in two with one swing of his club. But what Kamakau, the Hawaiian scholar, noted was remarkable. Quote, he had special koloa that flew about and told him from which direction an enemy approached, whether from the front, at the back, or from either side. All depended on the cries of the birds. They acted as his aerial surveillance in battle, letting him know where the enemy was. He was also assisted by retainers, 2 on each side, that supplied him with his weapons as needed, and with 40 more retainers for additional support. The koloa also finds its way into the night sky in Hawaii in the form of a constellation. Although the Southern Cross is mainly known as Hanaya Kamalama in Hawaii, an alternate name is Pukoloa, which means duck-like, and it's not too hard to see why. The Alai Ula in Hawaiian tradition was the keeper of the secret of fire making. Maui saw them roasting bananas to eat, but when he tried to get near them, they detected his approach and scattered the ashes of the fire. Finally, he caught the smallest of them, named Alai Huapi, and demanded to be taught fire making. But the bird at first deceived him, telling him that the secret of fire is to rub the stalks of kalo together. When that didn't work, she told Maui that it was the stalks of ki that he must use. Maui tries again and fails, and he's so angry this time, he's about to throttle the bird, who, realizing that she will die unless she gives Maui the knowledge of fire, tells Maui the answer in the form of a riddle, that he will find fire in water, wai. Maui puzzles over this, but not for very long, and realizes that the wai referred to is the plant called waimea, also known as olomea, a native tree with very light wood. When that wood is dry and rubbed with a hard wood, it ignites. The larger stick laid underneath is called the aunaki, and the one grasped firmly and rubbed on the understick is called the aulima. Thus Maui was able to pull the secret of fire from the secretive Alai Ula. Maui kept his promise to release the bird alive, but before he did, he took the bird and rubbed her forehead hard on the aunaki, rubbed it until the black feathers came off, and the skin underneath was rubbed raw and red. From that day, the Alai have borne the red forehead of that fateful encounter with Maui and mankind has had fire and all of its benefits. The voice of the Alai Ula is seldom heard and therefore taken as a sign. Some families consider it an ill omen, but one chant to Kamehameha referred to the Alai as the voice of the chief who is most compelling in council. Alaikea or Alaike'okeo receives its name from its white head shield. There is mention of the Alaike'okeo as an aumakua form, a kino lau, one of many physical manifestations that an ancestral god can take to interact with living descendants. So the auku'u, or native heron, is also considered an aumakua by some families, but one connotation of the auku'u is not complimentary. The saying auku'u kia iloko, the heron watching the pool, refers to a shady character casing the situation and up to no good. Finally, the I-O, or the Hawaiian stilts, represents one of those interesting coincidences where the English word stilt and the Hawaiian word for stilt are identical. An alternate name for the I-O is Kukulu-I-O, and Kukulu-I-O is also the alternate name for the tree called Ohemakai, whose light, strong branches were used to make stilts, used in special ceremonial dances to lift the performers high above the audience. So the Hawaiian stilt, Kukulu-I-O, is tied by name to this lowland tree, which was used to make stilts. We must be sure not to neglect Hawaiian wetland insects. Many people might be familiar with the giant Hawaiian dragonfly called pinau. But the freshwater springs and wetlands are important to the pinau because its larvae are aquatic. The Hawaiians call these naiads lohe. And because they grow into the largest dragonfly in the United States, the lohe are also quite hefty insects in their own regard, stalking the bottoms of large freshwater pools in every stream and feeding on anything smaller than them. It's quite a surprise to many people then that the goddess Laka, that is maintained by the kumuhula, the teacher of dance, involves the use of the lohe as an appropriate offering on the kuahu hula, the shrine to the class of hula. But there are several elements that bring this logic to this fact. First, lohe means to attend, listen, pay attention. And to redouble that important element of learning into lohe makes it doubly appropriate. It's the nature of the lohe to sit silently and watchfully in their pool. If you have ever watched them hunt, they sit perfectly still until a movement or vibration catches their attention. Then they immediately reposition themselves toward the object of their attention and wait further. This kind of disposition is exactly what a kumuhula requires of their students. Furthermore, when the lohe eats, it's an amazing, explosive extension of special grasping mouthparts that quickly apprehend their prey. The word for such grasping is apo, and it's related to the word a'apo, which means to quickly learn, to readily and rapidly understand the meaning of something. So for the kumuhula, the lohe, symbolizes the perfect student, attentive and quick to grasp and understand what's being taught. So I hope these vignettes out of Hawaiian tradition help us understand the deep spiritual and cultural significance of water, wetlands, and plants and animals that live in them.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Gon. That was wonderful.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
We have a couple minutes left. Is there anything you'd like to share with us about your work at the Conservancy?
Well, at the Nature Conservancy, we devote ourselves to the protection of the remaining native plants and animals and ecosystems in Hawaii.
Yes.
Wetlands are among them. And we track all of the locations of the wetlands in Hawaii. And it's always heartening to us when communities get together and select the wetlands that they choose to protect.
Well, thank you. It was wonderful, and I know the audience has learned something about wetlands from you. And thank you, everyone, for watching. Maunalua, past, present, and future. Help out at a wetland restoration near you. And if you're in Maunalua on a second Saturday, stop by Ke'awa'a Wetland and check out the project in Hawaii Kai. Thank you again. And this is Dr. Gon and Mardi LaPrade from Maunalua, past, present, and future.
Aloha.
Aloha.